What is Wabi-Sabi? Wabi-Sabi is the beauty of things imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete. This is what I came across when I started researching on the concept of Wabi-Sabi. It started a few months ago, and I started to realize that I have interest in ugliness. And right away, I was drawn towards the concept of Wabi-Sabi. And for those who don't know me, I was a fan of avant-garde fashion, where they always have all this experimental design, and each of these experimental piece has its own individuality, and it emphasizes on the flaws, the stain on them. To some, they look horrendous, but personally, I just can't resist the ugliness in a good way. The drip sneakers from Carol Kristen Powell can never be the same as the others. Rick Owens' natural leather would change its color due to different weather condition and temperature. The rust and scratches on Taichi Murakami's watch would differ from other pieces. I started to realize that experimental design can be similar or even related to Wabi-Sabi. At first, that's all I know about Wabi-Sabi. It was just barely another aesthetic style where it is ugly and shows sign of wearing. It also has strong characteristics like asymmetry, roughness, rustic simplicity, earthy, and more importantly, it can be a feeling. It can be feelings like modesty, intimacy, and unpretentious. A Wabi-Sabi teacup that is asymmetrical with some cracks shows the irregularity and imperfection. The wooden slab used as a tabletop slowly disintegrate over time suggests the sign of nature process. An untreated concrete wall with cracks shows an unpretentious side of Wabi-Sabi. They don't scream out, "Hey, look at me, I'm important," or neither do they demand for the center of attention. And that's the main reason what got me into Wabi-Sabi. And of course, there's something what I would call the Wabi-Sabi excuse, which is poor workmanship. I mean, I do have this kind of experience where my video, there's some flaws, there's some error in them, and I'm just too lazy to actually make it better. So I tell myself, it's Wabi-Sabi. It's just an excuse for me to be lazy. So Wabi-Sabi is way more than just an aesthetic style, and I only associated it with avant-garde fashion. And for some people, they might just use the word for a home decor style or a design direction. And that's why I thought until I dive deep into this research on Wabi-Sabi. Unlike the Western aesthetic of great beauty, which is everything has to be monumental, spectacular, and enduring, in other words, it has to be perfect. But Wabi-Sabi aesthetic, on the other hand, is more about finding beauty in imperfection. We all know that Wabi-Sabi came from a long history, and the initial inspiration of Wabi-Sabi philosophy come from the idea of simplicity, naturalness, and acceptance of reality. And all these are deeply found in Taoism and Zen Buddhism teachings. As Zen Buddhism is the bedrock of Wabi-Sabi, and Zen monks always have been using tea to keep themselves awake during meditation. That's the reason why Wabi-Sabi has a huge influence in Japanese tea ceremony. However, as this tea ceremony trend spreads, it became an opportunity for nobles, warlords to actually flex their lavish utensils, their expensive teawares imported from China. And all of these teacups are perfectly glazed, and it's like how people flex their cars and branded garments nowadays. Unlike the nobles, Zen monk Murata Shuko emphasized on the appreciation of local produced utensils. Instead of the perfectly glazed Chinese teaware, he opted for a rustic, worn and unglazed teaware made by Japanese artisans, where most of them are deliberately made imperfect. During that time, it's a norm for them to enjoy their tea and appreciate a full moon. But Murata Shuko has a different idea. He loved to use his rustic teaware and appreciate a half moon or a crescent moon or a moon behind the clouds. The moon doesn't have to be perfect for you to appreciate it. In order for us to understand the concept of Wabi-Sabi, we have to break down these two characters because each of them has its own meaning. Wabi originally referred to the loneliness living in nature and remote from society, and suggests a chillless emotional state. And Sabi translates into chill, lean, withered, and represents a sense of desolation and melancholy. Both have a negative meaning behind, and is best described a self-imposed isolation of a hermit or an ascetic. However, throughout the history, these two words have evolved into something more positive, and now Wabi connotes a rustic simplicity and quietness. It's about finding beauty in simplicity and the serenity in detaching yourself from the material world. Sabi, on the other hand, represents the beauty that comes with age, and its impermanence are shown in patina, wear and tear, or in any visible repairs. And in fact, the word sabi is kind of related to the word rust in Japanese. One of the examples for sabi is when the color of the wabi-sabi teacup change as you pour hot water on them. So in short, wabi can be seen as a way of life, a philosophical construct, while sabi, on the other hand, is just an aesthetic ideal. And that's when I know Wabi-Sabi is way more than just an aesthetic style. And this Wabi-Sabi video is getting kinda long, so I'll probably split it into two. One talking about what is Wabi-Sabi, which is what you have watched, and the second one, which I'll release it next week, talking about what have I learned from Wabi-Sabi. And just a quick message, I'm trying something new here with all this documentary light video that can bring you value. So if you would like to support this project of mine and future ones, you can head down to my Patreon link at the description below and pledge a small amount of money for every video that I released. That will really help this channel a lot and help me to grow this channel. However, if I'm not at a point where you can spend, I totally understand that. I'm already grateful that you are giving me one of your most important resources, which is your attention. So really thankful for that. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in part 2.